And welcome back to Coast. I'm George Norrie. Dr. Jerome Corsi joining us, of course. His latest book, The Late Great USA, The Coming Merger with Mexico and Canada. He has also written a book called Black Gold Stranglehold about his belief that we have abiotic oil, oil that is already here on this planet, created as the planet formed. We're going to talk about this huge oil field being found right here in the United States. Jerry, how are you?
I'm great, George. Great to be with you.
This is huge.
It is. It could be as many as, it's a huge, as many as 500 billion barrels of oil, is some of the estimates. The U.S. Geological Service recently did a study saying it's maybe 400 billion. So the USGS study is really very credible and is generating a tremendous amount of interest, especially as the new technology permits really good horizontal drilling. They can get at this oil that's in the shale and this Bracken field. I mean, it's massive. It covers big sections of North Dakota, Montana. It goes up into Canada. It's a huge oil field, and with oil at $100 a barrel, these unconventional resources, like the Bracken field, suddenly become very interesting.
How big are these reserves compared to, let's say, Iraq or Saudi Arabia?
Well, it would dwarf the North Shore of Alaska, first of all, which would be about 50 billion barrels of oil. And it would rival some of the estimates in Iraq. For Saudi Arabia, it's hard to tell. Oil geologists like Matt Simmons keep saying we're going to run out of oil. You know, twilight in the desert, Saudi Arabia is running out of oil. And Saudi Arabia laughs at that. They say they may have an unlimited amount of oil. I've seen Saudi Arabia double its estimates to, again, them saying they may have 1 trillion barrels of oil. There's an article, I just published an article on WorldNet Daily. It's the top article right now on the page. It's about Shell oil executive Jim Hoffmeister, who was on CNBC yesterday in the Squawk Box show. And Hoffmeister said that he doesn't believe we're anywhere near running out of oil. He directly challenged Matt Simmons, who's the Houston-based geologist, the investment banker I was talking about a minute ago, who's really well known for saying there's peak oil. Oil resources are limited.
Matt Simmons or Savinar?
Matt Simmons. Matt Simmons.
Okay.
Yeah,
this is also a Matt Savinar, as you know, who's been on the program. Okay.
Matt Simmons, who wrote Twilight in the Desert, the coming oil, Saudi oil shock into the world economy. I mean, Simmons has been arguing peak oil, like the Hubbard peak, that oil is finite, we're going to run out of it, it's a organic resource. And so Simmons has been saying this for years, that the world's running out of oil. And Hoffmeister, who's the head of Shell Oil on CNBC today, said Matt Simmons is wrong, that his assumptions are incorrect, that there are a lot of alternative resources, unconventional oil, like this Bracken field in North Dakota we were just talking about.
Which was discovered years ago, by the way. The price of oil was only $10 a barrel then, Jerry, so they decided they weren't going to do anything about it.
They did nothing about it. This discovery actually goes back to the 1950s. And it's been being looked at by geologists. They knew the oil was there.
Well, why does it appear to be a big story today in that they're making us all think they just found the stuff?
Well, because today the technology is able to get at it. You're finding wildcatters who are going out there and getting productive fields to produce.
Slant drilling, too, right?
Slant drilling, this horizontal drilling, and the techniques to get this oil out of the shale deposits that are in this Williston Basin. I mean, it's a huge basin. That has 500 billion barrels of oil, would rival the Middle Eastern countries. I mean, it's a huge amount of oil. But, George, we're finding oil. This is another point that Hoffmeister from Shell made. I also have been writing about this Brazil find. Brazil, off of Brazil, has just found another huge find that they say could be 80 billion barrels off the coast of Brazil, which is down under about 7,000 feet of water and another 10,000 feet of sand. That's about 4.5 miles below the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. We're getting this deep earth oil technology where we can drill down to depths we never could before, which is why I say there's tremendous support coming for the abiotic theory of oil, that oil is not produced by organic material that is produced by the Earth on a constant basis. And as we talk about Titan, the NASA findings on Titan with this massive amount of methane, liquid methane, it's all abiotic. In other words, it's carbon-13, which is the isotope of carbon that is produced not by plants deteriorating or any other biological material, but abiotically, with no biological material involved at all. It's a major breakthrough to see that much in our solar system, methane that's abiotic can exist, and there's abundant methane here in the Earth, which is also abiotic, that we're now finding and the scientists are confirming.
We use up about 5 billion barrels of oil a year in this country, right?
We use up, there's about 80-some billion barrels of oil. I mean, the barrels that we're using every day, yes, George, that's right. And the barrels of oil that we're using every day, most of it is now coming, 60% of our oil comes from foreign sources. We're getting most of our oil right now from Canada.
Right, but I mean, we're using 14 million barrels a day.
A day, 14 million.
So that's about 5 billion a year,
That's
right?
about 5 billion a year.
Okay.
We may be using up to, I think the recent figures I've seen are we're headed towards about 20 million barrels a day.
Well, but this discovery just near South Dakota, Montana, North Dakota would last up to possibly 100 years.
Yes, George. Clearly, there's enough oil already found on the Earth in both conventional and unconventional sources, like this Bracken oil or like the oil shale up in Alberta, to easily last 100 years.
I still want us to go to electric or some other system, but it's here.
But we'll have nuclear batteries running our cars before we ever run out of oil. I mean, the idea that we're running out of oil, it's why the Shell Oil's president being today on CNBC, or on Thursday on CNBC.
It's a shell game.
It's a shell game.
That's what it is.
And the next question we've got to ask is, why is the price of oil so high? Why are we paying more than $3 a gallon at the gas pump if oil is so abundant? And I've been arguing that, oil is abiotic, it's abundant. We should restructure these tax incentives for the oil companies so that unless they increase supply, they're not going to get the tax breaks that they're used to getting.
You know what, Jerry? My gut tells me that they waited for oil to hit $100 plus a barrel, and then they came out with this, look at this discovery, and, it's one of those feel-good stories. They could have gone in there a long time ago.
Clearly, and George, at $100 a barrel, there's going to be tremendous resources that are unconventional, like the oil shale in Alberta. We've got the same resource in the Rocky Mountains, the oil sands in Alberta, the oil shale in the Rocky Mountains. We've got this Bracken field that we can get through horizontal drilling. We've got abundant oil in Alaska. We've got oil offshore. They're finding oil. 70% of the Earth is water. We've only just recently begun to explore for oil underwater. If oil is abiotic, we're going to find deep earth oil all over the Earth, including under the oceans.
They say how deep this reserve is?
Well, the one in the Bracken field goes reasonably deep, and it's mostly, the problem has been the shale requires horizontal drilling techniques, which have been expensive.
But I wonder how the dinosaurs and plankton got down that far.
Oh, well, George, when you're down in the Brazil fields and the ones that they're finding in the Gulf of Mexico, when you're down 5 miles below the surface of the Earth, there's no dinosaurs or ancient forest or plankton or anything else that's producing the oil. The oil is being produced. We just had an expedition from the Woods Hole oceanographic scientists. They went to this crack down the center of the Atlantic Ocean to the Lost City hydrothermic fields. There's these great chimneys, and liquid hydrocarbons come out of these chimneys. The Woods Hole scientists just wrote a series of papers. They've sampled those hydrocarbons. They're abiotic. They're coming out of the center of the mantle of the Earth. Mantle's forming this hydro. And George, the Woods Hole scientists said that it confirms the Nazi equations, the Nazis' Fischer-Tropsch equations, where the Nazis learned how to convert coal, make synthetic oil before World War II. Those equations are describing what the scientists are finding coming out of the mantle of the Earth at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. Abiotic, carbon-13, liquid hydrocarbons. which is a breakthrough idea that deep earth oil